My name is Nicole. I am 28 years old and I live in San Francisco. For 3 years, I was in a relationship with a man named Stephen. He was 31, charming, funny, and kind, or at least that is what I believed. He worked for a large company and often traveled for days at a time. I never worried. I trusted him completely. Looking back now, I think that trust was the most precious thing I ever gave him. Everything changed on an ordinary afternoon when my friend Elisa called me. Her voice was quiet and careful, the way someone sounds when they are about to say something that will hurt you. She told me she had seen Stephen the day before, sitting at a cafe with another woman, holding her hand, leaning in close. My heart stopped. I asked her if she was sure. She said yes, without hesitation. After the call, I sat on my bed for a long time. I did not cry. I just sat there, staring at the wall, hoping Elisa had made a mistake. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Stephen was honest. Stephen loved me. Stephen would never do that. But when he came home that night, I saw it in his face. He smiled at me the way he always did, but something behind his eyes was different. I took a slow breath and asked him directly. I told him I had heard he was at a cafe with a woman. I looked into his eyes and waited. His smile disappeared. He looked down at the floor and said, yes, he was there. My whole world cracked in that moment. I asked him why. He said he had met her at work, that they had talked, that he liked her. He said he still cared about me. Those words made everything worse. Caring about me had not stopped him. Loving me had not been enough to keep him honest. I did not scream. I did not throw things. I simply nodded, walked to my room, and closed the door. I sat with my tears and my memories, every trip we had taken together, every promise he had made, every time I had defended him. I had believed in him so deeply, and he had used that belief against me without even knowing it. Over the next week, I talked to my closest friend. I cried. I thought. I asked myself the hardest questions. Could I trust him again? Would I ever feel safe beside him? Every time I imagined forgiving him, I also imagined the doubt that would follow me. The way I would check his phone, the way I would listen for hesitation in his voice, the way I would always wonder. I knew what I had to do even before I admitted it to myself. I asked Stephen to meet me at the park. It was a calm evening, the kind of evening we used to enjoy together. When I saw him, I felt the pull of everything we had shared. 3 years of inside jokes, of cooking dinner together, of falling asleep feeling safe. But I also felt the weight of the betrayal sitting on my chest, heavy and unmovable. I told him I loved him. I told him I genuinely did, and then I told him I was leaving. I said I deserved someone who would stay loyal, someone who would choose me every single day without hesitation. Stephen nodded slowly. He did not argue. He said he understood and that I deserved a good man. He was right about that, even if he had not been that man. I walked away with tears running down my face. It was the hardest thing I had ever done. But deep inside, beneath all the grief, there was a small and quiet voice telling me I had chosen correctly. The months that followed were not easy. Healing never is. I leaned on my friends, spent more time with my family, and slowly began to find myself again. I stopped replaying the past and started asking what came next. I stopped measuring my worth by whether Stephen had chosen to keep me. I started measuring it by the way I chose myself. 6 months later, I was at the library when I bumped into someone. His name was Albert. He was looking for a book, and I walked right into him. I laughed nervously out of embarrassment. He smiled, not the polished, confident smile I had been used to, but something warmer and more genuine. We started talking, and something about the conversation felt easy and unhurried. I was terrified to let anyone close again. I had built careful walls around my heart, brick by brick, and I was not ready to take them down. But Albert did not try to tear them down. He was patient. He showed up consistently, spoke honestly, and gave me space when I needed it. Slowly, without even realizing it, I began to trust again. I began to laugh without bracing for pain. I began to feel light. I sometimes think about the woman Stephen was with, a woman named Amelia. I used to feel anger when her name came to mind, but I do not carry that anger anymore. I learned that holding on to bitterness is like gripping broken glass. The only person it cuts is you. Letting it go was not something I did for Stephen. I did it for myself. Now, when I wake up in the morning, I feel something I had forgotten was possible. Gratitude. Gratitude for the hard lessons, for the friends who held me together, for the strength I discovered when everything fell apart, and for the quiet, steady happiness I found with Albert. If I could sit beside the version of myself from a year ago, the one on the bedroom floor, crying and completely lost, I would hold her hands and tell her this: what you are feeling right now is real, and it is going to hurt for a while, but you are not going to stay here. You are going to get up. You are going to find out how strong you really are, and one day you are going to smile again, not because someone rescued you, but because you chose yourself when it mattered most. Stephen was a chapter in my story, a painful one, but it was never the whole book. Losing him did not end my happiness. It was the moment I finally started finding it.